Yep. It always helps when you turn the camera on. Good morning out there. This is the Erskin Music Show. I'm so glad you guys have chosen to join me for a few moments today. We're going to be getting into a variety of topics, but before we do that, can I just say thank you guys for joining me today, and especially from Michigan. Man, much love. We're going to be talking a little bit about that trip. We're going to be talking a little bit about this weekend. We're going to have some special guests. We're going to announce some special guests. It's kind of a hodgepodge today. And so, letting you guys know that I drove back from the frozen tundra yesterday. We're in the home studios. The show is live. We didn't pre-record anything. There's nothing set up here. So the comment section, as it says there at the bottom, is turned on. If you have anything snarky to say, oh, I would love it if you would say it. We're going to be getting to some topics. And then by the end of the show, some hot topics. I know how to play this game well now. If you don't want to get your show censored, don't say the controversial stuff until the end of the show. So at this point, nothing controversial has been said. But if you'll stick around for just a few moments, my wife said there's nothing controversial about what you were going to say and have already said. Wink, wink. But yeah, hang around for just a little bit today. The comment section is turned on. We love it when you guys just let us know where you're tuning in from. Where you guys at? There's some folks that maybe are watching from Michigan. I would love that. Maybe some folks from Indiana, where we're just at. Some new folks joining the show. As of right now, we have 768 subscribers. And let me be good to the subs. Let me be good. If you're watching us on YouTube Live or Facebook Live and or Twitter, please remember to subscribe to the channel and enable the notifications so that you don't miss a single episode of the Erskin Music Show. Shout outs to everybody out there. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to get into a couple of birthday celebration things. We had a special birthday that just came up here, and that was a lot of fun. We'll get a chance to see the birthday girl here in just a few minutes. I want to talk a little bit about the Olympics, and I do mean a little bit about the Olympics. We're even going to get into some cat discussion this morning. And so for those of you who enjoy cat talk, that's probably one of the more controversial things that I'll say. So it's just kind of an episode of top stories. There's some exciting things that are going on. I will announce here at the beginning of the show, we're going to be we're going to be surprisingly short on our discussion related to the Olympics, but we're going to talk about sports, theology of competition tomorrow, and then we're going to have Tom Taylor, who's joining us tomorrow from the world-renowned and world-famous Tom Taylor Show. And he's going to come and talk to us about, we're going to make some Super Bowl predictions tomorrow. So that's tomorrow's show. And then on Thursday, we have on the schedule, as of right now, Brian Smith from Turning Point PR. So I know that there's a lot of musicians that watch this show, and there's people who are interested in the music industry. What I try to do is give you guys a behind-the-scenes picture into what the life of an actual real full-time musician looks like. And it's pretty crazy. I do this show, which is kind of my comic relief. This show is kind of my therapy. So you guys I'm kind of like on the couch here, like you guys are giving me therapy here. So this is a lot of fun for me. There's a lot of, shall I say, not fun things that go on, and then the travel, but then the people are so incredible. Let me just give you a couple of the images from this last Michigan tour. Look at this, what's going on here. I'll take me off of my question is, can you, oh wait, comments are pouring in. I love this. Yeah, Kezia, thank you so much. Get these guys off the screen. I've lost control of my own show. I have no idea what's going on anymore. Oh yeah, wonderful folks. But yeah, the keys joined us last week when I was in the frozen tundra, and it was great that I could be inside doing that show. Ooh, it was cold, baby. It was cold. But yeah, she co-hosted last week, and she's going to come back again. She's fantastic, doing her thing so well. Thank you for the comments on the background. We're just trying to make it look like a movie screen. Once we get to that sort of movie epic picture, if we got going on in the background, then I know we will have arrived. And so we're making strides, Kezia. We're making strides. So again, the comment section is turned on. Thank you guys always for your support. I wanted to talk a little bit about dolphins. No dolphins are ever harmed on this show, although I can't make the same claim about cats. We don't have any cats, but I am known as a cat psychologist for all of the wrong reasons. So just really quickly here, a little cat story here, because you people love when I talk about cats. You know I don't like cats. Cats know I don't like them. And I was back in a place that had cats. And it was interesting because when I was doing the Saturday show, I kept thinking there's a cat that's lurking around in the room. And you know how it is with cats. Cats can sense that there's people who don't like them. So of course the cat was, at my feet and, buddying up to me and trying to be all pooky and everything. And so I'm like, okay, cat. So okay, maybe if I pet the cat, then the cat will go away. Well, no. If you pet the cat, then the cat thinks, I've won this man over. This is now my new friend. This is the life is good. And so the cat kept looking up at me while I was doing the show and like, is it time for me to jump into your lap? And I'm like, we cannot have real live cats get on the show. That would be such poetic justice. The person who does not like cats, having cats actually invade the show. And so there was that threat of warning that took place on Saturday during the Saturday show. And so, we do what we can. But let's talk a little bit about birthdays in a segment that we call That's Weird. Because
that's weird.
All right. Did you know that birthdays are something that is a relatively new phenomenon in the celebration of birthdays? Some people celebrate for a day. Some people celebrate for a week. Some people have their birthday month, and they use literally the entirety of the month to celebrate, themselves and the fact that they're alive and that they're born. We're going to talk from the Bible a little bit about the theology and, some of the things that are related to special occasions. Every day is a special occasion, virtue of the grace of God. But did you know, and this is, my audience, you guys, big head, this is a very educated audience that watches this show. And so they probably already knew this, but I'm just going to go ahead and say it for dexterity. I know this is probably redundant. All of you guys have already thought about this today, but it wasn't until the 19th century or 1860s, 1880s or so that American birthdays really began to take shape. Think about what was going on with the country at that time. Middle-class Americans in the 20th century were birthday celebrations were not nationwide. In fact, the song Happy Birthday is itself only about 100 years old. Can we get a little happy birthday action going out there? I heard somebody say, I was watching one of those music kind of soiree music avant-garde shows, and they were like, Happy Birthday, the birthday song is probably one of the worst songs that was ever written. Melodically, it doesn't flow together, doesn't rhyme depending on what the names are, and this awkward syllabification in that song is probably one of the worst songs ever written, but it's probably one of the most popular songs ever written also. So put that in your pipe and smoke it. Throughout history, there were, however, scattered examples of birthday festivities. You know how we know this? Because we have evidence of this. We see these things, iconography from history of all sorts. Birthday celebrations springing up everywhere, all cultures around the globe. The honorees tended to be either rulers or Egyptian pharaohs or powerful members of an upper class. They had a similar pattern that was held in the United States. However, birthdays were only for rich people and national figures. Americans celebrated George Washington's birthday. It's coming up here in a few weeks. But everyone else had a birthday if they even knew the date of their birthday, which was not always common in the United States. The shift took place in the mid-19th century, and it started with none other than kids. Some scholars have emphasized the increased attention that began to be lavished on individual children as families started having fewer of them. Kind of more of a specialized thing. Kids' birthday parties may have been the early hint of how American children were starting to be viewed as less valuable economically, as workers, and more valuable emotionally as family members. So you got this time of the Industrial Revolution that's going on here, and people are like, hey, let's have a lot of kids so they can work on the farm. Let's have a lot of kids so they can go in the factory and they can earn a living and they can work for us. And people were like, maybe not such a good idea that we have all these children who are literally slaves in factories working for pennies a day as free and sometimes extremely cheap abused labor in factories. Maybe not such a good idea. And so you have a pulling away of that sort of graft and industrial revolutionary mindset, and kids begin to be more valued during that time. The rise in birthday celebrations was also part of a larger shift in our culture as to how people conceptualize the passing of times. Did you know that clocks weren't even always a thing? If you lived out in the wild, wild west, I mean, the sun came up and then the sun went down. And when the sun went down, then you went down. When the sun came up, you got. So it wasn't like, hey, everybody's looking at their clock all the time. Like, what time is it? Got to be there by 2:30. None of that kind of thing. And so as clocks began to be more of a standard of time and dates and fixed times in the American culture, that began to be something where we could mark time. Hey, today is the same time it was last year at this time, which was, hey, it's your birthday. And they began to celebrate these things. All right, as Americans became more aware of time, they also became aware of how it passed in their own lives. In 1989, the book How Old Are You by somebody by the name of Chonkov was written. This is all in the Atlantic. How Old Are You? Age of Consciousness in American Culture. The newfound focus on age was visible in the 19th century institutions as schools started using age to differentiate people and put them in grades, and doctors started using it to assess people's health and their development. By age such and such, they should have this that develops. And so you see how we civilized folks have now become very astute when it comes to time. Now, from the reasoned example there to the practical example, Jasmine, get yourself up in here on the Erskin Music Show and don't kick the camera. Look at this girl. She is now 14 years old. We got sound effects for you, Jasmine. This is your. So we just wanted to acknowledge this 14-year-old. She started when she was oh so small. I remember holding her in my arm. Just, what do you do with this thing? It's just peeing. Oh, what do you do? And now I don't have to worry about that. She takes care of all that on her own. But yeah, Jasmine's doing great. We got our hoodie that says God is dope, so that she can rock that wherever she goes in culture. So anybody out there who wants to tell her happy birthday, there's been a ton of people online who have already told her happy birthday. Her birthday was yesterday. And so we made the big drive back from Michigan yesterday so we could be there on her birthday, tell the world hello. Hey. And now tell them goodbye so you can get back to work. Bye. And don't kick the camera on the way out. Don't make me kick the camera. I know, there's a lot of pressure. A lot of pressure there. All right, so we got birthdays that are going on there. Let's talk a little bit about that trip to Michigan, by the way. Oh, yeah. So, had some really good experiences in Michigan. One of those that I would have to say is the highlight of this was Grace University, Grace Christian University. The folks that are there, Dr. Ken Kemper, if you're watching this, man, awesome. You guys are doing such a fantastic job of educating those kids and giving them all the tools and resources they need to live a powerful spiritual life in this world and to develop that and reach people with the gospel throughout all areas of culture. They're educating students in various forms and disciplines of learning, professional learning, and making them productive citizens all throughout Grand Rapids and to the ends of the earth. We're so excited that I had the opportunity to spend some time with Dr. Ken Kemper, whose heart is a heart of prayer for his students, for his nation, for his university, and they're lucky to have him. He's a visionary leader and one who actually rolls up his sleeves and gets the work done. Ate in the student center or the cafeteria with a lot of the students, got a chance to meet them, and it was neat. Got a chance to meet the basketball coach who summarily asked me the question. You know what that question is. He said, hey, you got any shoes? What kind of question is that? Of course I have shoes. Say, hey, you want to come out and practice today? Come out and practice today, and then I want you to talk to the team. And so we just had a great time. It was just great to be back on the hardwood. Didn't make as many shots as I used to make, but it was just great to be out there with the guys, and they were fantastic. I wish them well. I wish them nothing but the best as they get ready to prepare for their national tournament. Hopefully, they can win another national title. I think they're Division III, but they've won several national titles. Wonderfully coached team, well-disciplined team, and I think they'll do well. Stop turning the ball over, and they'll do well. But that was really one of the highlights, is to be able to be on college campuses. You guys know I love college campuses, and one of the reasons why I love college campuses and college students so much is because you can't fake college students out. You can get on the stage. If I was playing a show at Bridgestone Arena, you guys would never even get close enough to me to see my eyes. You guys wouldn't be around me when the bus comes in. You wouldn't be around when we're loading. Wouldn't be around when we're unloading. You might see me at the merch table, but it's such a big show that there'd be so many other people around that you would not be able to get close to me. You wouldn't be able to know if I'm a good dude. You wouldn't be able to know if I really like you. You wouldn't really be able to know like how enthusiastic I am about other people that are working with me and working around me. You'd just see me and see my big head on the screen, and then hear the songs, and then sing the songs, and away you go. But when you're with college students and it's a close setting, they can look in the whites of your eyes. They can tell if you're just making stuff up, or do you really live this life? Are you really an OG, or are you just making stuff up? Because, oh man, these kids I love it. I love me some millennials. They are finicky as cats. But I'll tell you what, when it comes to authenticity, being a Gen Xer myself, I really, really love the fact that college students will look you in the eyes with their beady little eyes and try to figure out, does this man really love Jesus, or is he just trying to make money off of Jesus? Wait, yeah, big head. There literally are people who make money off of Jesus. Like, Jesus is a business for them. I do the Jesus business, and then on the side, I do all my other stuff. So Jesus business, other stuff. And so, that big head, that really is a real thing. And so, yeah, I mean, really, it's important for us to recognize the fact that there ought to be some authenticity in the folks who stand on stage. As Jimmy Needham once told me, the stage is the most dangerous place for the human heart. There needs to be some accountability for people who stand on stage. And I love the fact that college students so often get a chance to do that. As I said before, there's some other highlights from the trip. What are some things here that we could share? Oh, yeah. I shared some of those pictures already. Oh, sorry, that's Tom Taylor. I did share some of those pictures, but man, these are some of my favorite pictures here of just folks doing life, enjoying one another, enjoying the place where God has put us. I enjoyed, doing a little mini show that was there, and man, that was just a lot of fun, ton of fun there. Erskin Music Show. So, top stories in a variety of areas that we had this week. I want to talk a little bit about the Olympics. Have you guys been watching the Olympics? Because I was on tour and really didn't have access to a lot of television in the time that I was gone. I only got a chance to see the Olympics last night and watched it for a little bit, but I have not been watching much of the Winter Olympics. Although my daughter, she was like super excited about the Olympics because the Olympics starts on February the 3rd and my birthday's on February the 7th. And so we've been hearing about the Olympics since about October and the fact that they were coming almost in conjunction and as a result of her birthday, but we know otherwise. And so the Olympics is a thing that gets celebrated in my house, maybe not in other houses. Like I said before, I haven't watched much of the Olympics, but I know we have them. Okay, that's we're done with that story. That's all I have to say about the Olympics because I haven't been watching them. I don't know much about what's going on there. I want to talk also a little bit about the weekend show and share a little bit about that. This is the Erskin Music Show, and so we are going to talk about Erskin music here in just a minute. But we want to jump into some discussion of the weekend show and the fact that I think that's kind of what makes this show different in my mind. Like, tell me, because those of you who watch YouTubers who are out there, I like a lot of the YouTube content that's out there. Like, I want to give a shout out to John McCrae's show. What Do You Meme? Ruslan, always, I think he's the top of the industry. Alan Parr, The Beat. Those guys are doing some fantastic work. And if you like this show, then you'll love those shows. They're in so many ways doing some creative things. But this show is a little bit different. You get a chance to see a window into the life of an artist. You get a chance to hear an artist talk about things that all the different people that I interact with. And one of the things I hope that you come away from is that if you're wanting to have your own business, if you're wanting to do music as a career, music for a living, interacting with a variety of people, like I said before, basketball coaches, university presidents, college students, basketball players, people that are congregants at a show, people who are, pastors, elders, leaders, musicians, just all sorts of people that we get a chance to interact with. That's so vitally important. In the business world, they call it networking, but I would just call it soul working. Like, every place that you go, you have an opportunity to interact with souls and just see how they might be blessed in their lives. Like, literally, we're looking at setting up some shows in New York coming up in the not too distant future, but just hearing people's heart and their vision for what could be done and the possibilities, dreaming those possibilities, so vitally important. All right, here's a song that I prepared for today. I don't know why the Lord laid this song on my heart, but he did. And so I'm going to play it. It is the song. Wait a minute. Where is that song? Merry-Go-Round. I'm going to do Merry-Go-Round, then we come back, talk about some top stories. Then we're going to get out of here today. Because like I said, we're not doing that whole hour and 15-minute show thing anymore. About 40, 45 minutes. You guys come in, come out. If you have any comments or questions, comment section is turned on. But we'll get to that in just a second after Merry-Go-Round.
Life is like a merry-go-round. One day you're up, the next one back down. Some days I don't have a clue of what my life would be like without you. And even when I don't understand, I will trust your unfailing hand. After all that is said and done, you're the one. That's how it goes, and where it stops, the Lord knows. Round and round and round, that's how it goes. I praise the Lord, no matter what comes. I don't worry for tomorrow, 'cause every day has its own set of sorrows. I'm growing up, I'm getting closer. Jesus saved me and he made me much bolder. Even when I don't understand, I will trust his unchanging hand. After all that is said and done, you're the one. Yeah. Round and round and round, that's how it goes. And where it stops, the Lord knows.
All right. Yeah. Merry-go-round. Thank you guys for celebrating that. It always helps when you turn the camera on. That's the theme for today. Always helps when you turn the camera on. And like I said, really appreciate you guys' comments. And so I wanted to just Rob Matheny. He has a comment here. Good morning. He asked the question, how do you know what God calls us to do? When did you know God called? Man, that's such a great question. And man, I could take a lot of time to answer that question. But I think one of the things that we need to be comfortable with, and this is sometimes difficult in the culture of the church, is we need to be comfortable with who God is making us and using the process in the church and the people around us to like really figure out like who we are. I remember when I was associate pastor at a church and I was getting ready to transition from that church to whatever God had in the future. I didn't realize at that point that it was music. I kind of was a little bit skeptical of that, but I thought this seems to be an open door and it seems to be a platform in which, the Lord would use potentially. Like, I think he'll use the music to reach people's lives and to touch people. But before that, I was just kind of in a place where I knew that there were leadership skills, and some of the points of tension that I had in my life were because I had certain leadership skills. And I remember a very wise gentleman saying to me, he's like, man, you do a good job. You're actually okay. You're only okay at like being a follower. You're okay at following. Like there's not a mark against you. But when it comes to your leadership, you have a very resolute mind. Like, you know what you want to have happen. You know how you want to see, you know how to put the work in. And so I just kind of realized, like, First Peter talks about, if anyone speaks, let him speak as the oracles of God. In leadership, like if that's what you're called to do, then you need to lead. I started recognizing, it's kind of a trend that's taken place in my life. Like, leadership has kind of been something like, when I was in band, I was always one of the leaders, played solos on the field and, did that sort of thing. When I was in basketball, I was Mr. Basketball and captain of the team and just kind of took leadership. Even when I was in college and I didn't even play, like I still felt like I was the leader of the team. And, my junior year, they voted me as the player's choice, most valuable player of the team because I was just a leader. Everywhere I went, I was just a leader. In student ministry, a leader. And so, taking that understanding of like who you are, like there's some people, and I'll be honest with you, in music, there's a lot of people who want to be leaders and they want to be people who have music as a career, but they don't really, they don't really want the smoke. They don't really want the criticism. They don't really want all the concerns that come with, they want somebody to do it for them. And so they're going to keep waiting for somebody to quote unquote discover them so they can just take them and be like, oh, this amazing talent. I'm going to make all the calls and I'm going to make the sacrifice and I'm going to spend my money so I can get that talent up on stage. There's a lot of people who have that talent. And so everybody wants to be, and I hope this is not offensive to the, Indian nation, but everybody wants to be a chief. Not too many people want to be an Indian. So to answer your question, Rob, once I started figuring out the Lord made you a leader for a reason. Like, you need to lead and you need to build teams and you need to build a legacy of some things that are going to outlive you. And once I began to think through that, it really began to make sense to me that he gave me talent to sing, enough talent to write songs, enough talent to put leadership around me and good people around me. And I will say this, I'm not 100% accurate, as you will find out tomorrow when we make our Super Bowl predictions. But I do think that the Lord has always, with great grace and favor, given me an ability to judge people's character very quickly. Like, I don't hang around with jokers. If you're out there and you're listening and you're one of my friends, it's because not only have we been brought close together, but I've seen something of your character that I desire to be around. I don't hang around jokers. I don't spend my time. There's a lot of stuff that needs to get done between now and the time that I die. And so I'm just not hanging around with jokers. And so maybe that combination, Rob, of just figuring out who God has made you. Are you somebody that's really good to come alongside of another leader and help them out? Man, that is such a tremendous thing. Leaders need faithful, reliable, dependable people. Are you that person? Come alongside a good leader. And I know that you have good leaders that are around you. And so perhaps just kind of figuring out where you're comfortable at and where you fit best, and then how God would use you, and then figuring out in community what that expression is going to look like. So thank you for that question. Your music certainly blesses me. Thank you, brother in Christ. Okay, thank you for that comment. Let's get to our top stories for today. Because I said we're not going to be here all day long, but we are going to be here some day long. Do 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 do. All right, top stories. What we got here? Am I able to even put this on the screen? Oh man. So I'm gonna tell you guys a story. Here's a story that I want to tell you. I was doing my show this weekend. Then a man called and said, "My brother, your show has been restricted." Remember that theme from the Brady Bunch? Let's go, Brady Bunch. All right. So I did get a message in my inbox on Saturday evening that was saying, "Hey, your Saturday show was restricted." And I thought, do what? I said, "Yeah, you know, Facebook has there's an issue with your show. They have restricted it and not allowed access to your show." And I thought, this is interesting. As you guys will hearken back to, and you can find it now. The show was about Jason and I doing the weekend show, a little commentary. It's a little bit more heady show. We don't do as much music, and we cut up quite a bit. There's a lot of laughter on that show, but not as much music on that show. It's not the Erskin music show. It's the way forward. How's the church move forward? And so we were looking at Planned Parenthood and talking about the fact that one of the strange ironies of Planned Parenthood is that they have just really flown this flag of we are about women's rights. We are about justice. We want to come beside Black and brown people who have been systematically mistreated in our culture and our society. And I scratch my head and I go, I'm a little confused about that, Planned Parenthood. You guys seem to be from your original writings of Margaret Sanger and people who were there, the American birth control and all of these beginning movements of Planned Parenthood, very particular about the fact that you wanted to eliminate as many of the Black race as you could, because that was actually gumming up the works in the United States. We were going to bring society down if you were to let us flourish. It's ironic to me that in a place where you're advocating for women's health, the least safe women are those babies that are in the wombs of mothers and Black women, as they comprise 38% of abortions that take place in America, while they only exist at about 6% of the population. And so you guys, I found that ironic. And then Black Lives Matter and their partnership with Black Lives Matter, who's, let's just say their financial improprieties are multitudinous in the way that they've misallocated funds and just been really shady about the way that, millions of people are giving millions of dollars to Black Lives Matter because they want to fight the cause of justice and equality and all these different things. But Black Lives Matter has not been transparent about what it is that they're doing. And they're really not doing much to aid Black people, white people, brown people, green people, red people. And so we just kind of looked at some of the peculiarities of that, and that show got restricted. I was super excited about that because I finally have said something that there's nothing unfactual. Like, we put all the show notes. You can go back and you can check that show out. The show notes are there. There's nothing mean. We prayed for women. In fact, if people felt like I sucker punched Black Lives Matter or sucker punched Planned Parenthood, perish the thought, because I probably sucker punched the church equally as hard, if not harder, because our whole perspective on that was, okay, it's one thing to say that abortions are wrong, but it's another thing to say, okay, now we've got to open up more homes, because if we're going to have these babies that are born, sometimes adverse conditions, they're going to need homes to go to. They're going to need support. They're going to need resources for these communities. And if Christians aren't willing to step up, that's not a very good brand of Christianity. In fact, James would tell us in James chapter 1, verse 27, pure and undefiled religion before God the Father is this, to visit orphans and widows in their distress and to keep oneself unspotted from the world. If Christians aren't going to do that, James would say your religion is false. And so obviously I'm not making the test of Christianity what you do for the poor. Obviously we know that the gospel and the transformation that takes place through regeneration and repentance is essential. But if that doesn't manifest itself in what we actually do, I think the world has every right to deconstruct. Like, if your religion is only something that you do on Sunday and only something that's a series of propositions given over a long extended monologue, then I think we need to be very careful that we call that Christianity, because it's not. Biblically, it's not Christianity if there's not the two of those things working side by side. And so that show got restricted. I was actually in a way a little bit intrigued, because later on in the day, Facebook released that and said we can't restrict this. I mean, there's fair use, which I cite for this show, and the use of this show, commentary and criticism of things that are going on. Although we don't criticize, we pray a lot on this show. We actually pray for a lot of folks on this show. And like we're talking about President Biden, we did spend an extended time praying for President Biden. Like, he's struggling, bro. Like, I don't care what your political affiliation is. You have to be on planet Mars to not recognize the president is struggling. And yeah, he gets up on camera. Oh yeah, robust economy and we fought coronavirus. He's got to say that. Like, if I was struggling the way that he is, I would get up and I would smile and everything's okay. You guys just keep working hard. We're going to work hard and we're going to do this together. Like, I would totally do that. Like, so he has to do that. I get that. But he's struggling. So, like, praying for the president. And even though we talk about, how he failed in Afghanistan and how the economy is failing and different things, like we are Christians. And so, like, we're not mean-spirited about that, nor are we mean-spirited about Planned Parenthood. I just wish that they would actually be honest. If like the truth was known about what Planned Parenthood is, we wouldn't have to start a defund Planned Parenthood movement. The people who actually work for Planned Parenthood would stop working for them. I think they're deceived at that level. And for Black Lives Matter, if all lives don't matter in the womb, and I was very clear about this statement, if all lives don't matter in the womb, then you're a hypocrite telling me that Black Lives Matter. So, there was that kind of commentary that we had on Saturday. Show got restricted, show got released. And so I said, you know what? There was no reason why they should restrict the show other than the fact that they didn't want people to hear me say that, when I precisely wanted people to hear me say that. Because look, I've got more to lose from doing this show than sometimes I have to gain from doing this show. Ken Kemper, president at Grace Christian University, said, I was watching your show. People that we're scheduling things with, I was watching your show. So the stuff that I say on this show actually matters. People message me all the time. Hey, you said this, or hey, you showed this on your show. What do you mean by having that Black Lives Matter icon up on there? And what were you talking about during that time? And clarify some things for me. And so I have a lot to lose from doing this show. There could be people who potentially would bring me in to do large events who say, not so sure we can have Erskin. He's maybe too woke, or he's too this, or he's too that. But at the same time, I do this show every day because I want people to know what I actually think about things. And I was absolutely clear, not in a mean-spirited way, but absolutely clear that the gospel is the solution to everything that we're talking about on this show. And I ran that through Planned Parenthood. I ran that through Black Lives Matter. We've run that through the political cycle. And so I went so far as to say, you know what? This is something I want to pay for people to hear. And so I'm going to pay Facebook to actually boost a post. I don't normally do that because, I don't really get into the sabermetrics. I'm more of an organic guy. Like, if 6 people watch the show, then those are the 6 people that God wanted to watch the show. Like, streaming numbers, all those different things we try to improve. Obviously, thank you, Kezia, for noting the fact that we've made some improvements on the set here. But we don't do this so that we can boost up metrics. Like, if more money, more pumping into the system, more people see it. Okay, bigger and better. But what we do on this show is just give some real life commentary. And so I wanted people to hear me say that my concern was tantamount or massive concern related to how Christians respond to the needs that are around them. Like, it's one thing for me to say, well, man, there's a lot of Black women that are getting abortions because there's a lot of Black women who are having babies that are potentially going to come into this world, and they're going to be in a low poverty and economic standpoint. That does not justify an abortion. But on the other side of that, as Christians, if we're just gonna sit back and be like, man, really sorry about what's happening to Black women, really sorry about what's happening to Black people. Hey, what are we having for lunch today? If that's going to be our response, then we can't also call that a faithful biblical Christianity. And so I've been very clear about that on this show. I don't think I need to say more about that. Like Mayoshi says, I just described religiosity. Am I an abolitionist? Absolutely. Absolutely. And if I'm going to be an if I'm going to learn how to speak the English language, an abolitionist, we have to be able to do the things that we're doing right now. Let me look folks in the camera and tell you, we got a 14-year-old, a 14-year-old, and a 17-year-old that stay in our house. And the 17-year-old was placed here in respite care because of some very traumatic, and I can't go into details, intense situation. And so we're going to open our home up. We just had a 2-year-old that turned 3 in our home and then went back to their home. And so, yeah, let's roll up our sleeves. Let's quit talking about Christianity. Let's actually do something about it. Now, as it relates to what sometimes people describe as half measures, like people passing legislative things that lessen abortion, I'm in favor of those as well. Let's work toward the goal of abolishing all abortions. But yeah, I think that's the biblical pattern there. As we have the opportunity to see life flourishing, we talked about hope in the African American community, entrepreneurship. We talked about solving problems in the African American community, police relations. All these things are related to people who solve these problems. Well, those people can't solve those problems if they don't now live in the world because they've been aborted. And so we could go on about that all day long. But anyway, that was released. Facebook rejected. They said, we don't even want your money because we're not going to post and promote what it is that you said. But it was funny because after that, we had 81 impressions and people who viewed that. So apparently either Facebook is viewing that over and over again. Somebody keeps viewing that over and over again because it's actually being seen by more and more people. So if you can go back and check out that weekend show, it was tremendous. We loved having that there. And so that was that. Tomorrow, the sun will come out tomorrow. Maybe not. It's Nashville. The sun comes out scarcely little time here. Tomorrow, we're welcoming to the show Tom Taylor. Tom, are you there? No, he's not there. He's not there until tomorrow. But Tom has got a microphone in front of his face. And if you go on Tom's Instagram page, you'll see as the very first picture on his Instagram page, a picture of Tom Taylor and I have been on the Tom Taylor Show a variety of times playing music, talking about sports. He used to announce, now into the game comes number 10, Erskin Anavatarte. He shoots the 3 and misses it. He used to be the announcer for the Buccaneers basketball team during the time that I played for it. And he's going to come on and just share a little bit about why you all should be watching the Tom Taylor Show or listening to the Tom Taylor. You didn't watch it yet. I told him he needs to get on StreamYard, but we're going to talk to him about that later. But he's got massive listenership. And he's had people that have approached him on the show and said, hey, we want to put your show in national syndicate because you've got the goods, man. You can talk those sports, man. And he can't. But we want to advertise for beer. We want to advertise for other things. And he's like, nope. And furthermore, I'm going to be talking about Jesus on my show. So if you're not comfortable with that, deuces. And so he's going to come on tomorrow. He's not going to spend a lot of time with us, but he is going to share with us some Super Bowl predictions. All right, it's going to be on camera. I will be exposed if my Super Bowl prediction doesn't come true, but I think I got it this year. So I'm going to predict the Super Bowl winner. He's going to predict the Super Bowl winner. And we're going to talk about how sports, faith, Christ, all those things intersect just briefly tomorrow on tomorrow's show. Is he a believer? Is he a believer? Let's ask him tomorrow. I love that question because I know he's going to have an answer that's ready. So you come back tomorrow. That's the tease for the show. We're at 44 minutes, so we're going to shut the show down for today. But man, good questions today. Folks asking me about finding the will of God, finding God's purpose. Find the will of God. Here you go. All right, so there's that. And then obviously, as we work out our salvation with fear and trembling, we do that in community. We'll find the will of God. Thank you for that question. Thank you for asking me to evaluate people's lives or whether or not they're a believer. Thought you had me. But no, come back tomorrow because he is going to give, I think, a very clear, full-throated presentation of where he stands with Jesus. It's been the Erskin Music Show, a hodgepodge kind of show today. Watch this. I've got all sorts of things that I can press and make the show go away.